Every afternoon at exactly 3 p.m., a golden retriever named Chester makes his way to the same bench in a quiet neighborhood park. The sun begins to dip lower in the sky, casting warm golden rays through the leaves of the tall oak trees surrounding the area. Children giggle and play nearby, their laughter ringing like music, but Chester seems oblivious to it all. He pulls his owner gently along the path, his tail wagging with excitement as they approach their destination. Chester's owner, a recently widowed woman named Margaret, watched her beloved dog with a mix of curiosity and affection. She had adopted Chester from a rescue center just a year prior, searching for companionship during her lonely days. At first, she thought Chester's fixation on that particular bench was merely a quirky behavior. Dogs often have their habits and preferences. It puzzled her why he would sit there for hours on end, refusing to budge until the sun dipped below the horizon. With each passing day for 2 years, Margaret had grown accustomed to this routine. It had become a comforting part of her own daily life. After losing her husband, she found solace in Chester's presence. The simple act of taking him for walks brought her a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of grief. As they strolled toward the bench each day, she often reflected on memories of happier times spent with her husband. The park was a beautiful place where nature thrived, yet it also echoed with reminders of her loss. When they reached the bench, Chester would sit patiently at its base, gazing at it as though waiting for someone or something only he could see. His large brown eyes sparkled with an energy that seemed almost otherworldly. Margaret would smile softly at him, running her fingers through his soft fur while she settled down on the bench beside him. "Isn't this lovely?" she would say quietly to Chester as if he could understand every word. "You have your favorite spot here." But today felt different than usual. There was an air of anticipation hanging in the breeze as it rustled through the leaves above them. Margaret leaned back against the wooden slats of the bench and took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh scent of grass mixed with blooming flowers around them. As time passed on that particular afternoon, something unexpected unfolded. A gentle figure appeared along the path leading to them, a frail elderly woman dressed in floral patterns and a wide-brimmed hat adorned with colorful ribbons. Her slow steps reflected years filled with stories and wisdom etched into every wrinkle lining her face. Upon noticing Chester sitting dutifully by the bench, she froze mid-step. Her eyes widened in recognition as she took in his familiar form. "That was Harold's bench," she said softly. Margaret turned to look at this stranger who spoke so fondly of someone named Harold. Her curiosity piqued immediately. "Harold?" she asked gently. "Yes," replied the woman with a hint of sadness in her voice. "He was my dear friend." As they exchanged stories about Harold and shared glances at Chester, the bridge between their lives, Margaret learned that Harold had been an 80-year-old man who came to this very spot every afternoon for 15 years. His ritual involved watching children play after school while enjoying moments filled with laughter and joy. Chester's ears perked up slightly at hearing Harold's name. He seemed more alert than ever before, as if recognizing something profound within that memory shared between strangers. The elderly woman continued speaking about Harold's love for life and how he would often bring treats for any dog that might wander close by on those sunny afternoons. With each word spoken about Harold's kindness imprinted in their hearts forever, Margaret felt an invisible thread connecting them all, Chester included. Suddenly realizing what brought them together, the bond between animals and their humans, Margaret experienced an epiphany about Chester's unusual habit. Perhaps it wasn't just randomness or quirkiness after all. This loyalty stretched beyond mere daily routines. There was meaning interwoven within those moments spent waiting by that bench where love once thrived. As sunlight began fading into evening hues painted across the sky like watercolor brush strokes mingling together gracefully overhead, it became clear why Chester claimed this space as his own sanctuary, day after day awaiting something special lingering within those cherished memories tied to another soul long gone yet never forgotten. With newfound understanding blossoming inside her heart filled with warmth towards both Chester and Harold, it was evident this park belonged not just to them but also held countless stories worthy of sharing beneath its vast canopy, enriched by nature's bounty, eternally connecting lives through love and remembrance, no matter how short or long-lived they may be. Margaret sat on the bench, looking out at the park as the setting sun painted the sky with warm hues of orange and pink. It was a beautiful sight, yet her heart felt heavy. The past year had been incredibly difficult since she lost her husband, George. Their home, once filled with laughter and joy, now echoed with silence and empty spaces that reminded her of what was missing. After George's passing, Margaret had struggled to find comfort in her daily routine. One day, after much contemplation and encouragement from close friends, she decided to adopt a dog from the local rescue center. She hoped a furry companion would help ease her loneliness and provide some joy in her life again. When she first met Chester, a golden retriever with soulful eyes and an endearing personality, something clicked between them. The moment Chester wagged his tail and licked her hand, Margaret felt a spark of happiness return. Adopting Chester turned out to be one of the best decisions she made during those dark days. He quickly adapted to life with Margaret and filled their home with lively energy. His joyful antics and gentle nature brought warmth back into her heart. Every wag of his tail seemed to remind her of the love she once shared with George, of happy moments spent together in their backyard, laughing at their own playful dog. At first, their walks were simple outings around the neighborhood where Margaret would share bits of her life with Chester as though he understood every word. They wandered aimlessly through nearby streets, exploring parks and gardens while basking in the sun or catching glimpses of passing children playing. Despite this newfound companionship, there were still moments when loneliness crept in like an unwelcome guest. But then came Chester's unusual habit, his sudden pull toward that specific bench every afternoon at 3 p.m. At first, Margaret didn't think much of it. She figured it was just another quirk dogs tend to have. Yet there was something about the way he refused to leave that spot until sunset that intrigued her more each day. As time went on, sitting together on that bench became a cherished tradition for both Margaret and Chester. The quiet moments they spent watching children play nearby reminded her how joyful life could still be. She often closed her eyes while listening to laughter echoing through the park. It felt like a balm for her aching heart, a reminder that love existed all around them whether she had realized it or not. Chester would sit by her side patiently during those afternoons while his keen senses attentively absorbed everything happening around him, the rustling leaves above his head, the chatter of people walking by, or even the distant bark of other dogs playing in the grass nearby. Sometimes Margaret would talk to him about George, the memories they created together, and find comfort knowing that though he was gone, he would always remain a part of who she was. "Do you miss him too?" she would ask Chester softly while stroking his fur affectionately. His warm brown eyes seemed to gaze back at her understandingly, as if he felt what she felt, a deep connection born from shared struggles over loss. The words could not fill the void left by George's absence. It was these shared moments with Chester at that bench that provided clarity amidst confusion and pain in Margaret's heart. Initially perplexed by Chester's attachment to the bench, she began to see it as a special place woven into both their lives. It offered a sanctuary designed for healing and remembrance rather than mere routine. As months slipped by like leaves drifting off trees in autumn's grace, Chester transformed into more than just a pet. He became Margaret's confidant, a loyal companion navigating this journey through grief toward brighter sunlight, filtering into new beginnings waiting patiently ahead. The occasional passers-by would smile at them as they enjoyed their peaceful hours spent together, a glimpse showcasing how love can take many forms even within fleeting moments shared by two souls bound through circumstance rather than fate alone. Each day brought whispers of hope draping itself over their hearts, fueling determination not only to embrace past memories but also lean gracefully toward future possibilities yet uncovered, together exploring life's beautiful tapestry. Somewhere beneath those golden rays spilling into evening light blossomed resilience infused quietly within each heartbeat, a promise for tomorrow lived fully alongside cherished memories forever etched deeply inside both hearts yearning anew. The neighborhood park was a tranquil escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Towering trees bordered the grassy areas, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze like whispers of nature. In the bright patches of sunlight that filtered through the canopy, bright wildflowers blossomed, adding splashes of color to the green landscape. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming daisies and freshly cut grass, creating an inviting atmosphere for children and adults alike. Chester reveled in this serene environment. Every day at 3 p.m., he seemed to sense the approach of his favorite time, pulling Margaret excitedly down the familiar path leading to their bench. For Chester, it wasn't just any bench, it was a special place where he felt a connection not only to Margaret but also to something deeper, an unexplainable bond rooted in the echoes of laughter that had once filled the air. The park was surrounded by charming little houses with cheerful front yards and friendly neighbors who often greeted Margaret and Chester as they made their daily trek. On warm afternoons, families flocked to the park with their picnic baskets and laughter echoed like music through the trees. Kids played tag or flew kites high into the blue sky, while parents chatted on blankets spread across the grass. Brightly colored swings creaked ever so slightly as little ones jumped into them with glee. For Margaret, this vibrant setting breathed life into her healing journey after George's passing. She would sit on the bench while watching Chester survey everything around him, the children running freely, couples sharing quiet moments under shady trees, and dogs bounding through fields chasing after balls. The park felt alive with joy, and it soothed her aching heart amidst her sorrow. As she shared countless afternoons with Chester on that bench, Margaret often found herself reflecting on how important this peaceful sanctuary had become for both of them. Each sound, the laughter of children or even the gentle chirping of birds, reminded her that happiness could be found again if only she remained open to it. Sitting there beside Chester brought a sense of comfort. She cherished their quiet conversations woven together through unspoken words as they both sat side by side taking in everything around them. One particular day stands out in Margaret's memory. The sun shone brightly in a clear sky, casting long shadows across the ground as early spring blooms began to peek out from beneath, giving way to vibrant color amidst lingering winter's grasp. Chester lay at her feet, his fur glistening in golden shades under sunlight while he dreamt peacefully, a soft reminder of how love could spark even in moments leading up to change. As they settled into their routine after months together, the essence of routine settling like warm honey over freshly baked bread, Margaret noticed how much Chester seemed to relish their time at this specific spot just as much as she did herself. There was an undeniable energy that surrounded them within that space, resonating with gratitude each day spent together under vast skies, weaving memories into existence. Perhaps it was Harold's spirit lingering from long before. Perhaps it was simply an innate magnetism between souls connecting across time which drew Chester toward this particular seat day after day, or maybe it was their shared need for companionship strengthening along parallel paths marked primarily by lost yearning for new beginnings waiting patiently ahead. With every afternoon visit, secrets unfolded beneath swaying branches, whispering stories waiting patiently within secluded corners, dotting leafy thickets, wrapping themselves softly like blankets around those who sought refuge here. A loving embrace welcoming all into its heart where kindness blossomed, unfurling gentle petals offering glimpses toward healing, hopes igniting like sunshine breaking through dark clouds, casting shadows aside, revealing vibrant colors anew, awaiting discovery, because sometimes even amidst darkest moments treasures lie hidden waiting for those brave enough to seek out light. And so they continued their newfound journey together on that weathered bench, Margaret basking in cherished memories strengthened by present experiences. Chester drawing closer like clockwork, reminding her with every wag of his tail that they were never truly alone, navigating pathways forged while embracing bonds transcending grief, stirring deep-rooted connections born anew, prompting discovery toward brighter horizons painted vibrantly across life, still unfolding within moments shared at their beloved park, filled with whispers echoing eternally beyond time itself. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Margaret found herself increasingly intrigued by Chester's unwavering attachment to the bench. Every afternoon, without fail, he would tug at his leash, guiding her toward their serene spot beneath the tall oak trees. While she appreciated these moments and the sense of peace they brought, a quiet mystery lingered in her mind. Why did Chester feel such a deep pull toward this specific place? Margaret tried to rationalize Chester's behavior. Perhaps it was the comforting scent of grass and wildflowers that captivated him. Dogs, after all, relied heavily on their sense of smell. As she pondered this possibility, she imagined how delightful it must have been for Chester to bask in the myriad scents surrounding them, the earthiness of soil, the sweetness of blossoms, and even the distant scent of barbecue from nearby picnics wafting on gentle breezes. Still, there was something different about Chester's connection to the bench that went beyond mere smells. There were days when she'd watch him sit patiently at its base, his gaze fixed on the ground as if guarding memories invisible to her eyes. Chester's body language spoke volumes. Every now and then he seemed restless but never left his spot. He would sniff at the wooden slats or lay his head down with a soft sigh as if settling in for a long wait. One afternoon, while leafing through an old photo album back at home as sunlight danced off pages filled with cherished memories shared with George, Margaret began to connect fragments within her mind. The bench felt alive with stories woven into its very wood, that perhaps it was where Harold had once observed life dance around him like flowers blooming after spring rainstorms. Was it possible that Chester could somehow sense remnants of that happiness left behind? Margaret occasionally spoke to Chester about those thoughts swirling in her head. After all, who wouldn't share secrets with their beloved pet? "Do you think Harold watched children playing just like we do?" she asked one day as Chester rested beside her on their treasured bench. His soft brown eyes seemed to sparkle knowingly, not that Margaret expected a response, but rather an understanding grew between them, a silent acknowledgement that there was more than meets the eye. It soon became evident that Chester held onto something precious amid memories surrounding that space, an almost magnetic force drawing him back time and again like driftwood dancing on waves returning homeward. Yet deep down inside her heart echoed questions challenging assumptions she'd made along the way. Could animals feel emotions or sense things far beyond human comprehension? What if Chester was somehow trying to reach out, not only to Margaret but also connecting with Harold's spirit? It wasn't until one crisp autumn afternoon that Margaret met an elderly woman while walking across the park who offered profound insight into Chester's bond with the bench. The stranger stopped in her tracks when she spotted them sitting there together under golden leaves fluttering gracefully down like tiny lanterns lighting up dark corners concealed previously by grief. "That was Harold's bench," she remarked softly as if recalling a cherished song from years gone by when simplicity ruled hearts once rich with love, echoing beside playgrounds filled exclusively with laughter exchanged between friends gathered nearby. Jolted from her thoughts, Margaret looked up in surprise, intrigued yet hesitant to probe deeper into what was still somewhat intangible within these layers surrounding their lives, layers revealing past glories but also fresh wounds needing patience amidst healing. How did this stranger know who Harold was? More importantly, was it true? Did this bench once play host across time, forming connections too intricate for words alone? The elderly woman went on to explain how Harold had spent countless hours watching children's joyful antics unfold while sharing treats he brought along each day, a gentle soul whose daily ritual brought warmth not only to himself, but also restive spirits belonging entirely elsewhere seeking solace together as kindred souls crossed paths here amongst changing seasons, signifying life's fragility despite adding fuller colors within creation intertwined. In an instant understanding sparked between them, transcending through years, bridged over bonds forged anew, casting shadows left behind earlier, illuminating hidden doors waiting eagerly opening wide towards discovery, alongside cherished relationships blossoming eternally held dear amid laughter. You could feel it all pulsating through echoes, gently hovering, providing sanctuary from unseen challenges arising, prompting inquiry along contrasting pathways, enriching exterior worlds spun tight, gathered softly, unspooling against fibers sewn long ago. Margaret realized then, alongside tender truths learned reflecting back towards Chester, they themselves weren't merely grappling externally, navigating through silences thickened by absence faced, but rather experiencing rebirth, originating like seedlings taking root amid broken landscapes, yearning quietly, breaking forth leveled high, seeking light anew. Enveloped beneath playful branches, kissing glimpses, adorning skies decked lavishly, unleashed onto untold realms, inviting courageous hearts willing enough embark onward, discovering forever waiting, gently woven threads binding endlessly, embracing reflection, strength full circle, urging unconditional love, leading wide borders welcomed warmly, extending beneath sprawling branches, reaching upward, inspiring transformations born gently beneath shades tranquil, widely breathless, promise witnessed flowing freely onward, discovering healing, moving forward while cherishing every fleeting moment, gifted entirely, spurred, nourished, opportunities found, painting destinies vibrantly stamped across canvases, elusive dreams felt deeper, endowed, forever blessed through sacred journeys embraced together, harmonizing. Symphony expressed collectively along horizons ever unfolding, revealing new beginnings, understood, graciously cradled, lovingly reaffirmed, paths traveled, a danza celebrating life through unique rhythms, heartfelt joy enveloped, enriching fragments immortal, making touch eternity splendid. Enveloped beneath playful branches, kissing glimpses, adorning skies decked lavishly, unleashed onto untold realms, inviting courageous hearts willing enough embark onward, discovering forever waiting, gently woven threads binding endlessly, embracing reflection, strength full circle, urging unconditional love, leading wide borders welcomed warmly, extending beneath sprawling branches, reaching upward, inspiring transformations born gently beneath shades tranquil, widely breathless, promise witnessed flowing freely onward, discovering healing, moving forward while cherishing every fleeting moment, gifted entirely, spurred, nourished, opportunities found, painting destinies vibrantly stamped across canvases, elusive dreams felt deeper, endowed, forever blessed through sacred journeys embraced together, harmonizing. Symphony expressed collectively along horizons ever unfolding, revealing new beginnings, understood, graciously cradled, lovingly reaffirmed, paths traveled, a danza celebrating life through unique rhythms, heartfelt joy enveloped, enriching fragments immortal, making touch eternity splendid. It was an ordinary afternoon in the park, the kind of day that wrapped around you like a cozy blanket. The sun hung high in the sky, bathing everything in a warm glow, while a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the towering oak trees. As Margaret sat on the familiar bench with Chester by her side, she felt the usual sense of tranquility that their routine provided. But today, a different energy seemed to fill the air. Margaret watched as Chester sat with his ears perked up, his eyes fixed on a spot down the path. It was as if he had sensed something special about to happen. At first, she thought he was simply waiting for children to arrive at the playground. She smiled at him, gently stroking his fur, and said, "What is it, boy? Are we expecting visitors?" Just then, an elderly woman appeared in the distance, walking slowly but steadily along the winding path leading toward the bench. The woman was dressed in a pastel cardigan that contrasted beautifully with the vibrant colors of fall, the reds and yellows swirling around them in a symphony of color. When she noticed Chester sitting there, her pace slowed even more until she came to a complete stop, her eyes widening with recognition. Margaret shifted in her seat, intrigued by the sudden interaction taking place before her eyes. The woman's gaze was locked onto Chester as if she were seeing a familiar friend after years apart. It struck Margaret how deeply this stranger seemed to connect with her dog without exchanging a word. "That dog, he's Chester, isn't he?" she said softly, stepping closer to the bench. Her voice was filled with wonder mixed with nostalgia. "Yes, he is," Margaret replied cautiously but curiously. "Do you know him?" The elderly woman's expression grew wistful as memories danced across her mind like fallen leaves swirling in the wind. "I do," she replied gently. "That was Harold's dog." "Harold?" Margaret echoed, feeling an urge to learn more about this man whom she had only just heard mentioned by name. "Yes," the woman continued, her voice tinged with emotion. "Harold sat on this very bench every afternoon for 15 years. He would watch the children play and share treats with any dog that passed by. He loved this spot, he brought joy to everyone who frequented this park." Her eyes sparkled as she shared these memories that held both happiness and sadness intertwined together. Margaret felt a wave of compassion wash over her for Harold, and an unexpected connection began to form between herself, Chester, and this stranger who stood before her sharing his story. Her thoughts drifted towards Chester's attachment to the bench. How could he sense something so profound? As curiosity bubbled within her, she asked, "What happened to Harold?" The elderly woman's face fell slightly at the question, carrying the weight of loss gently on her shoulders. "Harold passed away just a little over a year ago." She paused for a moment to gather herself before continuing. "Chester was surrendered to a rescue center shortly after that. I couldn't bear the thought of him alone, without his best friend." Margaret listened intently, feeling both sorrow for Harold's disappearance from this world and gratitude that Chester had found his way to her. She reached down to scratch Chester behind his ears. He leaned into her touch as if sensing her thoughts. "What a beautiful bond they must have shared," Margaret said softly, realizing now how significant their own bond was becoming in light of this revelation. "I adopted Chester last year when I needed companionship myself." She could see that the old woman felt a connection forming as well. There was something almost magical about this moment, a mingling of past and present echoing softly like whispers crossing time. The elderly woman smiled fondly at Chester. "He is so very special," she remarked before glancing back at Margaret. "You know, dogs have an incredible ability to connect us even across realms we cannot see." In that instant, Margaret understood what had drawn Chester to that bench day after day. It wasn't just about comfort or habit, it was about love lingering in the air like autumn fragrances waiting patiently for someone to breathe them in again. Margaret found herself captivated not only by Chester's behavior but by how memories intertwined their lives in unexpected ways. It felt almost serendipitous. This elderly woman had entered their lives like a bridge connecting two worlds, one where George lived on through shared moments filled with laughter and love, and one where Harold's spirit echoed still along those familiar benches, finding warmth among earthly forest boughs, sprouting new beginnings, planting themselves firmly alongside older stories, waiting patiently until now to mingle together, enriching their lives authentically. As they sat together, two women navigating similar journeys of loss, they shared anecdotes, thickening air charged with joy and grief alike. The park became more than just an escape for Margaret, with each passing story unfolding under shimmering rays, leading to friendships consumed, embracing existence elevated beyond boundaries, growing boundlessly steadfast, forever ingrained amidst sunlight spilling across golden grass, eventually embracing new medleys promising healing, intermixed, woven directly through loving tales spanning lifetimes, echoed gently tracing hope renewed, while blossoms danced gracefully whispering secrets veiled beneath luminous skies. As the elderly woman spoke, Margaret felt as if she were being drawn into a beautiful tapestry woven from threads of memories and emotions. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the park, and with every word shared, she could almost hear the echoes of laughter and see the joyful scenes that had played out on that bench for years. "Harold had such a gentle spirit," the woman continued, her eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and sadness. "He had a way of making everyone feel welcome. Children would flock to him, eager to share their stories or show off their drawings. And Chester, he was Harold's constant companion. Margaret glanced down at Chester, who lay peacefully at her feet, as if he could sense the importance of this conversation. It struck her how deeply Harold's love for Chester had impacted the dog's life. She began to understand why Chester seemed drawn to this spot. This bench held not just memories of Harold but also remnants of a bond that transcended time. He loved to bring treats for Chester, the woman reminisced with a smile. Every afternoon after school, he would have something special for him, cookies or bits of his sandwich. They'd sit here together for hours, watching life unfold around them. It was their little sanctuary. Margaret listened intently as visions danced in her mind, the picture of Harold seated on the bench with Chester beside him, both surrounded by children laughing and playing games. It painted a portrait of joy that resonated deeply within her own heart, a reminder that love could bridge even the greatest distances. What happened after Harold passed away? Margaret asked gently, hoping to learn more about this remarkable man who had touched so many lives. The elderly woman sighed softly, collecting her thoughts. Harold passed away peacefully in his sleep last winter. The community mourned his loss, he had been a fixture here for so long. Her voice wavered slightly as she continued, after he was gone, I found it hard coming to the park without him. I knew Chester needed someone too, he must have felt lost without Harold by his side. Margaret's heart sank at this revelation. She could only imagine how painful it must have been for Chester after losing his beloved owner. The sudden absence of companionship must have left him feeling adrift. I couldn't bear to think of him alone in his shelter, the woman explained, wiping away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. So I reached out to the rescue center and made sure he found a loving home. Margaret felt a deep swell of gratitude toward this woman who had ensured that Chester would not suffer alone after Harold's passing. It was clear that Chester was still carrying fragments of his old life with him, a life filled with love and warmth, now expressed through the bond he shared with Margaret. I adopted Chester soon after, Margaret said softly, looking into the woman's eyes. I needed companionship myself after losing my husband. She paused, letting the weight of their shared experiences settle between them like a comforting blanket. The elderly woman nodded understandingly, her expression reflecting empathy born from experience. It seems like fate brought you two together, she said gently. The love Harold shared with Chester lives on through you both. In that moment, Margaret felt an overwhelming sense of connection, not just to Chester but also to Harold's legacy and this wise woman sitting next to her sharing memories filled with kindness and compassion. Chester may have lost one friend, Margaret said thoughtfully, but he has gained another in me, and now it seems we share a bond beyond what I ever imagined. As they exchanged smiles filled with understanding and warmth beneath the sprawling trees framing their sanctuary, the park transformed into more than just an escape. It became a space where stories intertwined across time gathered together, weaving lives forever changed through offerings made simply among strangers brought closer by love. They spent more time sharing stories about Harold's adventures in life, how he would tell tales about his youth spent exploring forests nearby or recounting embarrassing moments from childhood that made everyone laugh until tears rolled down their cheeks. In return, Margaret shared snippets about George and how much joy he brought into her life before illness turned everything upside down. As shadows lengthened around them, signaling evening approaching, gently mingling sounds echoing playfully, watching children happily chase bubbles floating gracefully, the air felt charged with magic. Margaret realized how beautifully their lives were intertwined now, two women connected through loss yet filled completely, brimming compassion sparking new friendships meant to flourish brightly evermore. With each shared memory wrapped snugly around them, a tender sentiment enveloping nurturing souls once lost but now reborn anew. They embraced every flicker, illuminating paths ahead, beckoning forth healing, rebounding waves softly murmuring, while whispers carried laughter delightfully trailing off, inviting sunsets mirrored glowing brightly, exhibiting peaceful warmth, heralding beginnings renewed, laced sweetly, encircling hearts, expanding endlessly amidst rising tides. As the elderly woman continued to recount Harold's life, Margaret felt a growing sense of admiration for this man she had never met but who had touched so many lives around him. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, and the laughter of children playing nearby became a backdrop to the stories unfolding between them. Harold was a fixture in this community, the woman said with a fond smile. He wasn't just an old man sitting on a bench, he was a storyteller, a mentor, and sometimes even a confidant to those who needed someone to listen. Parents often dropped their children off knowing they would be safe with him. There was a sparkle in her eye as she spoke, as if recalling a cherished dream that had come to life. He had a special bond with every child who visited this park, she continued. You'd see them running toward him after school, eager to share their latest adventures or show off their drawings. Harold always made time for them. He encouraged creativity in some, bringing along art supplies for those who wished to sketch or paint with him. Margaret pictured Harold sitting there, his gentle eyes twinkling with delight as he listened intently to stories filled with childhood wonder. It was easy to visualize the scene, the way he must have leaned forward, engaging with young voices, bringing warmth and laughter to those fleeting moments that spark joy in childhood. Every Sunday, he would organize little games for them, sack races, treasure hunts, you name it. The woman laughed softly, shaking her head at the memory. Harold believed that laughter and play were important parts of growing up. They helped shape character and build friendships that would last a lifetime. Margaret found herself captivated by the image of Harold nurturing connections within the community, how he had created a safe haven not just for Chester but also for children who thrived under his kind-hearted mentorship. His unyielding spirit of generosity seemed to ripple outward from that simple bench, creating waves of happiness and camaraderie among families. In wintertime, the elderly woman continued, he would arrange sledding parties. Everyone looked forward to it. He would bake cookies and bring hot cocoa for everyone afterward, his way of warming up hearts on cold days. Margaret chuckled at the thought, imagining Harold bustling about with an armful of treats, his laughter mingling with the joyful shouts of children racing down snowy hills. It painted a portrait of community that resonated deeply within her heart, a legacy shaped through love and meaningful interactions. But you see, the woman said, her voice turning more solemn as she glanced at Chester nestled at Margaret's feet. Harold didn't just watch children play, he saw the beauty in their lives. He understood that each child carried dreams and hopes, they were like little worlds waiting to unfold. Margaret felt tears prick the corners of her eyes at this profound observation. It was clear now why Chester felt such an attachment to this particular spot. It wasn't merely about habit or comfort, it was about love and memories left behind that continued to thrive beneath every leaf and branch surrounding that bench. After he passed away last winter, the woman said quietly, the park lost some of its light, the laughter dimmed a bit without Harold's presence. I knew Chester needed someone too, he adored Harold fiercely. They were inseparable. Margaret nodded in understanding as she reached down to stroke Chester's soft fur. She could feel his warmth radiate against her leg, a reminder that love could flourish anew even amidst loss. It struck her how both she and Chester had found solace in each other after enduring significant heartbreaks. Now I see how our paths intertwined, Margaret murmured softly, glancing back at the elderly woman. You brought Chester into my life at just the right moment. The woman smiled gently at Margaret's words, recognizing the deep connection forming between them all once more, a bond built on shared experiences encircling them like an embrace filled with compassion and understanding. Harold taught us all so much during his time here, she said reflectively. We honor his memory by keeping his spirit alive within us, through our kindness and care for one another in this community. As Margaret watched children chase bubbles floating joyfully through the air while Chester wagged his tail gently beside her, she realized how vital it was to carry forward those lessons Harold imparted: generosity, compassion, joy. This park served not only as their healing sanctuary but also as a canvas where stories continued painting vibrant shades, brightening paths leading onward. With each passing day spent on that very bench, the love shared among strangers echoed brightly, revealing newly blossoming friendships, igniting hope nestled snugly against quiet uncertainties awaiting fulfillment. The shadows grew longer, signaling evening approaching, gently mingling sounds of laughter harmoniously drawing nearer, inviting warmth, wrapping tightly interwoven moments emerging blessedly brighter than any past sorrows faced before. In this small yet significant corner of the world, a rich tapestry unfolded, intertwining lives forever changed, bridging connections born anew, teaching splendid resilience, illuminating timeless beauty, woven effortlessly, nurtured through simple acts of kindness, flowing freely, enriching every soul who graced their spirits along paths trodden, lovingly held dear. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the park, Margaret sat on the bench, reflecting on all she had learned about Harold and his bond with Chester. The stories shared by the elderly woman echoed in her mind like a beautiful melody, one filled with laughter, love, and ultimately loss. Margaret glanced down at Chester, who lay resting contentedly at her feet. She thought about how much this gentle creature had already endured, heartbreak and solitude lingering in his past as shadows danced along the ground beneath the trees. Chester, like her, was a survivor in his own way, both searching for a sense of belonging after losing someone dear. It dawned on her just how intertwined their experiences were when it came to grief. Within the depths of loss lies a unique realm where memories thrive and evolve constantly as they shape one's identity moving forward. Margaret could feel echoes of Harold's spirit encircling them both. Those fond moments spent reminiscing about joy infused in children's laughter added meaning to this park, providing warmth to their aching hearts. "What do you think he would say if he could see us now?" Margaret asked Chester gently, knowing that dogs often pick up on emotions unspoken, connecting effortlessly those they love through transcendental understanding beyond language. She imagined Harold smiling proudly at the sight of his beloved dog finding comfort again. Chester lifted his head slightly and wagged his tail, almost as if he sensed Margaret's thoughts spilling forth between them, the uniting essence emerging around unrevealed paths unfolding with each gentle breeze whispering sagas timelessly weaving kinship gently among souls seeking familiarity anew. The gravity of Harold's absence still loomed large over the park. It became evident that not only had they lost an irreplaceable person but also an anchoring light guiding little hearts through life's storms, elevating joy effortlessly encompassed, beautifully shared. From that day onward, Margaret vowed not only to honor Harold's legacy but also embrace everything she could offer Chester, a safe haven brimming with affection where old wounds slowly yet steadily healed into something meaningful, guiding them toward brighter tomorrows, nurtured ever peacefully alongside together, creating essential warmth, bridging transformations even through multiple layers gathered over time. Occasionally coming back to relive stories spoken together, lifting hearts gracefully out from fragments overlooked, shedding stillness weighing heavy, letting rise spirits born anew, radiantly boundless rapture sparked whenever smiles exchanged brought fresh illumination, ensconcing shadows, transforming sorrows yet again, allow breathing room, entering blooming colorful compassion, knocking upon open doors, awaiting rediscovery continuously, venturing outward, lighting pathways rich with visions, gathering timeless tales leading forward. Days turned into weeks, meshing transformed traditions, serving nourishing, distinctly new routines evolving. They embraced simple explorations, inviting connection, gently welcoming one's unwritten chapters, delicate threads tenderly stitched together, swirling beautifully amongst fleeting interactions, opening hearts wide, inviting laughter, ringing bright, echoing sweetly upon rippling edges, bearing soft encounters, perseveringly rising evenings drenched golden amongst reflections replayed, sharing stories becoming ever more precious, bending expansive ideas, illuminating warmth, flowing resolutely, threading routes, unlocking doors toward deeper dimensions, truthfully penned joy meeting behind spaces always patiently followed, awaiting every heartbeat. Margaret began noticing how each visit to the park infused newfound perspectives. A cherished reminder as children drew near, reflecting vibrant lives colored enthusiastically, painting canvases showcasing spontaneity bursting throughout, invigorating surrounding air ushering forth celebratory tones, reminding everyone collectively engulfed, love's embrace dappled warmly by fading sunlight, nearing horizons beckoning, immensely welcoming, infinite offer revealing secrets sewn within sentiments etching lives connected, infinitely stretching boundlessly beyond solitary corners, indefinitely brighter than initially once conceived from before. Watching Chester interact buoyantly with passing families, from children waving cheerfully, holding hands, glowing bliss, openly yielding glances, drawing nearer, giving life essentials, crafting moments wisely held dear, bringing, gathering, cocoon themselves, painting rings, swirling colors wherever kindness, eliciting slowly spilled, growing respect, fabrics making shelter, truly enriching, experiential healing destined, many close, cherishing life itself, blossoming rapidly, constructed focal points open avenues, cultivating friendships, binding individuals, quests, adventure profound, allowing gifts, gracious, deeply heartfelt, woven paths, feathering comfort, continuously laid forth, nourished compassion, light endlessly brimming, whole spiraled, softly captivating experiences, encompassing healing heartstrings, sprawly because all reasons tied, intricately bridging experiences, transcending road, evolving during waves, trailing, hopeful, harmonizing dance, celebrating existence, enriched sky, laughing above, endlessly nurturing ventures, exercised, entered, exploring beautiful intimate connections, loved ones, filled appearance of grace, pouring forth security, threaded amid laughter, inviting strength, stemming anew, whispering beautiful bonds amidst currents, possessed harmony, lying sparkling quietly, richer than ever imagined before, making every glance palpable, thus reminding sincere depths, return twining, loving kindred spirits, wanting everlasting echoes, reverberating lifetime miracles, transitioning, grounded, forever grateful, noticing life blooming abundantly, rejoicing, older pieces becoming polished, cultivated, extend continually knitted, closely woven legacies discovered, waiting, resplendent summits, willing, henceforth lifting enterprises, giving spark, blossomed vibrantly, always revered, rejuvenated spirits kindled, richly shared, remain, blessings bestowed, cherished, brightened horizons, celebrating luminous echoes, forever fluttering, lovingly danced about, kindling souls made bright, whole skies filled eternally. Watching Chester interact buoyantly with passing families, From children waving cheerfully, holding hands, glowing bliss, openly yielding glances, drawing nearer, giving life essentials, crafting moments wisely held dear, bringing, gathering, cocoon themselves, painting rings, swirling colors wherever, kindness eliciting, slowly spilled, growing respect, fabrics making shelter, truly enriching, experiential healing, destined, many close, cherishing, life itself blossoming, rapidly constructed, focal points open. Avenues cultivating friendships, binding individuals, quests, adventure profound, allowing gifts, gracious, deeply heartfelt, woven paths, feathering comfort, continuously laid forth, nourished compassion, light, endlessly brimming, whole, spiraled, softly captivating experiences, encompassing, healing, heartstrings, sprawly. Because all reasons tied, intricately bridging experiences, transcending, road evolving, during waves, trailing, hopeful, harmonizing, dance, celebrating existence, enriched, sky laughing above, endlessly nurturing, ventures exercised, entered, exploring, beautiful, intimate connections, loved ones, filled, appearance of grace pouring forth, security threaded amid laughter, inviting strength, stemming anew, whispering, beautiful bonds amidst currents, possessed, harmony lying, sparkling, quietly, richer than ever. Imagined before making every glance palpable, thus reminding sincere depths, return, twining, loving, kindred spirits, wanting everlasting echoes, reverberating, lifetime miracles, transitioning, grounded, forever grateful, noticing, life blooming, abundantly rejoicing, older pieces becoming polished, cultivated, extend. Continually knitted, closely woven legacies discovered, waiting, resplendent summits, willing, henceforth lifting, enterprises giving, spark blossomed, vibrantly, always revered, rejuvenated spirits kindled, richly shared, remain, blessings bestowed, cherished, brightened, horizons celebrating, luminous echoes forever fluttering, lovingly danced about, kindling, souls made bright, whole, skies filled eternally. As the sun continued to set, bathing the park in a warm golden light, Margaret and the elderly woman sat together on the bench, both feeling the weight of emotion surrounding their conversation. The gentle breeze stirred the leaves above them, creating a soft rustling sound that seemed to echo their feelings of connection, loss, and remembrance. "I never knew Harold personally," Margaret admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But hearing you talk about him makes me feel like I've known him my whole life." She looked down at Chester, who lay contentedly by her feet, his presence filling the space between them with warmth. "He must have been a remarkable man." The elderly woman nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "He truly was. Harold had a way of making everyone feel special and loved. He had a heart that embraced not just Chester but every child and adult who came to this park." Her voice trembled slightly as she continued, "When he passed away, it felt like a light went out in the community. He was the kind of person you could always count on to lift your spirits." Margaret's heart ached at the thought of Harold's absence in this vibrant place, the laughter that once filled the air now colored by his memory. She found herself wondering about how many lives he had touched during his time here, much like how Chester had touched her own life after George's passing. "I can see how much he meant to you," Margaret said softly, connecting their shared grief into something deeper. "Yes," said the woman, wiping her eyes with trembling fingers. "It's hard to let go of someone who brought so much joy. And Chester, well, he was Harold's shadow." The notion struck Margaret profoundly. Chester had been her shadow too since she adopted him. They were both navigating life without their beloved companions, Harold for Chester and George for herself, yet they found solace in each other's company. "Do you think Chester feels lost without Harold?" Margaret asked gently, looking at Chester with concern. The elderly woman pondered this for a moment before replying. "I believe he does, and yet he also carries Harold's spirit within him. There's a bond that transcends loss, it remains part of who we are. Animals have an incredible ability to sense emotions and memories. I think Chester can feel the love he shared with Harold still linger here even if it's unspoken." Margaret felt tears welling in her eyes as she looked at Chester again. It was true, there was something magical about the dog that made her feel connected not only to him but also to Harold, a thread woven through shared love and loss. "I hope I can honor Harold's memory through my bond with Chester," she said earnestly. "You already are," the woman replied kindly, placing a comforting hand on Margaret's arm. "By giving Chester love and companionship again, you're keeping Harold's spirit alive in your own way." In that moment of vulnerability, both women felt as if they were sharing an invisible embrace, a poignant reminder that while loss is heavy, healing journeys unfold beautifully over time when guided by love and remembrance. They exchanged knowing glances filled with understanding, two women connected through their shared experiences and compassion for one another. As laughter from nearby children echoed around them, children chasing after bubbles floating whimsically in the fading sunlight, Margaret realized how important it was to honor not just Harold's memory but also her own journey of healing alongside Chester. Each giggle reminded both women that while sorrow exists in their hearts, so does joy waiting patiently to blossom anew. I want to create a space for Chester where he feels safe and loved, Margaret admitted as she watched Chester observe everything around him attentively. I want him to thrive again. The elderly woman beamed at Margaret's words, seeing not just hope but determination reflected in her eyes. That's exactly what Harold would have wanted, for you both to find happiness once more, she said warmly. With renewed purpose blooming within them like flowers unfurling toward sunlight, they began sharing more stories about childhood adventures and cherished moments spent with loved ones lost along paths traveled universally together. As shadows flickered across the ground signaling day's end, their connection deepened even more, reminding them life is richer when woven together through shared narratives, continuously embracing love, fostering friendships enduringly, sparkling brightly. In the small yet significant corner of the park, amidst echoes of laughter, that simple bench became a sacred space where two grieving souls cultivated understanding, reminding each other they weren't alone on this journey, releasing burdens lovingly nurtured, mirroring Harold's spirit guiding them forward, illuminating paths leading towards joyful tomorrows. As the last light of day settled over the park, Margaret sat with Chester by her side, reflecting on the profound journey they had both embarked upon. The park, once a place of solitude and sorrow for her, had transformed into a sanctuary of hope and connection, woven together by the threads of love and memory shared between the three souls, Harold, Chester, and herself. The stories shared with the elderly woman about Harold lingered in her mind. She had learned that Harold was not just an old man who frequented this bench, he was a beloved figure in the community, a mentor who fostered joy and creativity among children. To hear of his kindness made Margaret feel even more connected to him through Chester. They both carried pieces of his spirit within them. Margaret glanced down at Chester as he lay peacefully at her feet, his soft body radiating warmth. In that moment, she recognized how much he represented for her, an embodiment of resilience and love amidst loss. Just as Harold had offered companionship to Chester during his life, Chester had stepped into Margaret's world after George's passing, filling a void she thought could never be filled. Her heart swelled with gratitude for both men, one who had passed but left behind a legacy rich with kindness, and one who had come into her life at precisely the right moment to help heal her heart. She thought about how Chester's steadfast presence offered comfort as she navigated her grief and loneliness. Margaret took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet scent of blooming flowers mixed with fresh grass, nature's embrace wrapping around them like a comforting hug. You know, she whispered to Chester softly, it's okay to miss Harold. I do too. As if sensing her words, Chester lifted his head slightly and gazed up at her with understanding in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement of their shared heartaches. It became clear to Margaret that healing was not a linear path but rather a winding journey filled with memories that would ebb and flow like waves against the shore. Some moments would be heavy with sadness, while others would burst forth in laughter or joy when least expected, like children playing nearby chasing bubbles that danced on the evening breeze. Together, we can carry Harold's spirit forward, she said gently to Chester. We can create new memories right here. With each visit to the park, she felt determined to honor Harold's legacy by embracing life fully, by nurturing friendships formed through shared experiences alongside her loyal companion. In the weeks that followed, their daily routine continued to blossom. Each 3 p.m. visit brought new adventures as they explored different corners of the park, the vibrant summer blooms painted against lush greenery welcoming smiles from passers-by eager to greet the loving duo. Margaret made it a point to share stories of George with Chester while recalling moments from Harold's life she had learned recently. It became a new ritual binding them closer together. With every playful bark from Chester or sweet interaction with children running by, they breathed vitality back into what once felt stagnant after loss, and transformed it into action. The laughter echoed brightly across open spaces as they formed connections within their community reminiscent of Harold's warmth, inviting other families into conversations, igniting threads intertwining their lives, further enriching collective tapestry woven brightly along this shared path. Margaret allowed herself to feel joy again, to laugh freely without guilt as memories danced vividly before her eyes, illuminating hidden corners previously shadowed by sorrow. It was liberating discovering beauty layered thickly across landscapes now threaded firmly through hearts stitched tightly together. She marveled at how nurturing relationships held power beyond measure, reminding them all life continued despite personal trials faced yet peacefully embraced. Chester thrived under this revitalized environment, his playful antics eliciting smiles from those around him, mirroring balanced harmony reflecting long-cherished connections flourishing anew. Every wagging tail and joyful bark served as reminders that love knows no boundaries even after someone has left this world behind. As autumn approached, the leaves began shifting colors, painting vibrant hues across treetops, beckoning transformations ahead. Margaret felt hopeful, looking toward brighter tomorrows, promising new chapters waiting patiently, unfolding beautifully enriched, blending seamlessly intertwined fates forever marked, fondly honoring connections formed among spirits, guiding them along paths traveled boldly, illuminated brightly wherever kindness beckoned, gently inviting friends, kindred souls celebrating life abundantly lived. The bench remained their cherished refuge, a place filled with echoes where they could process memories freely, exchanging tales rooted deeply, celebrating precious lives shaped through meaningful interactions, nurturing bonds, embracing change, willingly guiding forward toward filling renewed beginnings, illuminating bright horizons, alive, brimming endless possibilities, forever grateful each moment spent on this journey, revealing true treasures awaited, patiently discovered within love unyielding. Lifting hearts toward realms unknown, blossoming vibrantly along every step taken, hand in paw, opening doors, expanding experience, gathering warmth, healing, moving onward, bringing shining brightly, enduring legacies brightly remembered.